uh, you know, calculate tips. You understand? So it's like a tip calculator. So if a user comes to your application, right, they can easily calculate tips they want to give. What's the name? They want to give a waiter or a waitress, right? And I told us that you should do something in our last class. I said you should go ahead and try to create another functionality that allows it to take in any amount. So it doesn't have to be only 10% or 15% or 5%, right? I said you should go ahead and create another functionality. And that's instead of having a select button, create an input. So the user can go ahead and impute their own what's the name? Percentage. Who remembers? Remember, right? Who did it? Nobody. Okay. So the reason why, okay, let's leave that. Real amount. So you can still go ahead and try it. And try throughout the throughout and see if you're going to get the answer. So you have a real amount, you have a tip amount. Now the thing is that you have unlimited resources for it to come. Tasks like this are very easy. You're not writing any algorithm. You're not writing any complex code. All you're writing is what? Just using normal dot. So they're very easy. You can easily use Google or search for answers. You understand? Answers that can, of course, the answers will not come at once. Pieces of answers. So grab one for me, grab one for me, grab one for you, and join it together to form your answer. You understand? This are how you can get your. They are very easy. So just go ahead and do that. Instead of using a select button like this, what I want you to do is create an input, right, that can easily get any amount of user tip rate that they want. So they can check for 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, any amount, and then can easily get your answer. That is very easy. Very easy. Trust me. It's very easy. So that's all. That's all you have to give you like a little bit of expo, right? The tip rate that is here, what are the values? 0.15, right? 0.1 and 0.05, isn't it? Now, instead of giving it all of these things, you can just give it a what? An input. Now, that input is going to take in a value, dot value, right? But you are going to get the value of the input. Now, you're not going to multiply, how do you get a percentage of something? Divided by 100, right? So these are going to be, you're going to have the tip, that's the bill amount, over the tip, right? Divided by 100. In this times 100, divided by 100. Times 100. Yes. So the bill amount divided by the tip times 100. That's the formula. Now in this place, we just did 3, right? But I don't want you to do 3. I want you to create a distance, a form input. Go ahead, go to your Java and now create that functionality. Now in this place in your Java, you notice that you are doing what? You are doing bill times what? Number rate. Now this number rate in this place, instead of using this rate rather, instead of using this rate here, you can now say rate equals now const rate is equals to this, right? Dot value, right? You can now go ahead and can say let rate equals to this dot value. Now you can now also say rate will now be equals to the bill input, right? Times the bill input over the rate input, right? Times 100. What am I saying? You've gotten the rate dot value, right? I can easily now come here and say let t equals to what? Bill, which is the input, right? Divided by what? Rate, isn't it? Times 100. This is the formula. Do you understand it now? Bill over rate times 100. This is how you get it. So now, I don't want you to go ahead and create the functionality yourself. It is easy. Very easy. All you have to use just what? Change this from select, where is this? Change this from what? Select to what? Input. Remove the option. Change it to input. And give that same input an ID of what? Rate. That's all. So you see how easy it is that. So you don't understand what you want, what I want. So what I'm saying is that instead of creating multiple rates like this, right, create an input field that allow users enter their view and also enter their rate. So if they want to give you 1% tip rate, they write 1% tip rate, 1%. Or there will not be options again. So they can write 1. So instead of writing percent, they can write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a percentage. They can even write 75%. Do you understand? So instead of having options. All right, so that's about that. So in today's class, we'll be going into loops. And then I'll be explaining what exactly loops are, why you use loops, right? So again, I will not touch everything here, but I will touch everything that you need to understand. Go ahead and read it up. Oh, okay. That's this thing. All right. I'll just suggest you check out the videos because we have a lot of class. Or you can ask somebody for their codes later. But if you still do not understand it, reach out to me first. I'll explain it. So that's what, and this thing I still need to come back to it the same time. So now let us go into loop. Now, first of all, we'll talk about introduction to loops. We'll talk about for loop. We'll talk about while loop. Then I will suggest you go ahead and read this do while loop, right? Because if you understand the first two, you should understand this one also. Then you can go ahead and I will go ahead and explain looping through arrays. Very easy. Talk about looping through arrays. Then we'll talk about for in and for out loops. Then loop control statements and advanced techniques. Hopefully we'll finish it up today and now point it up to Wednesday. So now what exactly are loops? Now let us get started. Loops are a fundamental concept in programming, allowing you to automate repetitive tasks and execute blocks of code multiple times. We'll come again with that definition. Loops are a fundamental concept in programming, not just in JavaScript, in programming, allowing you to automate repetitive tasks and execute blocks of code multiple times. Now, what is this saying? It is saying that instead of you writing certain functions multiple times, right? All you have to do is what? Write it once and use a loop in JavaScript to iterate over it or call it over multiple times. You understand? So what exactly am I saying? I'm going to come here and I'm going to have a new, I'm just going to come here and say, I'm going to have a new distance. So I'm going to say script app, script, then I'm going to say new.js. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a new JavaScript file since I won't be using this app.js again. So I'm going to say app.js. Now go ahead and create a new folder for this. I'm using the same project folder. Create a new folder for this so that you will not interfere with your code. So we have new.js. Now, in this place, let's say you want to have, so let's say let A equals to 10. Now, what if you want to print out the value of A 10 times to your console? How will you do it? I'm asking the question. If I want to print out the value of A now to the console 10 times, how will I do it? I will use console.log 10 times, right? So I'll say console.log A, right? And I'll duplicate 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you understand? Now, if I come right here now, so let us go live and let's go live, right? Let us check it out now. So if I check out my inspect, I should have what? 10 times, right? And as you can see, they are new words. They are new, what's the name? Tasks. They are not actually one task. They are new tasks, repeating tasks. Do you understand it now? Now, what loops is now saying is that instead of having something like this, right? Let us do it one time like this, and then we're going to what? Get our answer. You understand what I'm trying to say? Let us have something like this, and then we'll get our answer. Now, let me do the same thing now, and let me show you how loops. I cannot use a for loop Now I'm going to console this. I'm going to remove this. I can use a for loop. I can say for I, right, equals to what? So we want to print from 1 to what? 10, right? So I equals to 1. So let's start from 1. So we can now say I is less than or equals to what? So I is less than or equals to what? 10. Since we are printing to 10, then we can now go what? I plus plus. We can now have what? Oh, that's actually here. Can I have I plus plus? Now, right here, can I go ahead and see console.log console.log I. I think I made a mistake with my syntax here. Yes, I actually made a mistake. So it should be this and not a comma. Yeah, so say let's I or doesn't matter. So now I said I'm using a for loop, right? So I'm saying let I equals to what? 1. I is less than or equals to 10 and I plus plus. Now, you don't have to understand the syntax first. Just check this out. If I refresh it now, so if I refresh it now, okay, this is not working. This is, let me check. Okay, so I think I'll use the adjective. So let I equals to 1. I is, oh, what did I write here? I wrote I is greater than, okay, or equals to. So let us check it out. It might still not work because of there's something wrong with my syntax. Let us wait for it. How is it loading? Up is not returning an infinite. Huh? Okay, it's saving. It's saving. I thought it was returning an infinite. It wasn't. Okay, so I think it's working now. So let us check it out and let's see what we have. Now, as you can see, you have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You understand? Now you have this thing 10 times. But now, look at this place. As you can see, it is only printing how many lines? One line. So line 2, line 2, line 2, line 2, line 2, line 2, line 2. But the last one was saying 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Meaning that that's what multiple programs. But this one is just one program that easily what iterate over one particular task. That is what a loop is. So a loop is saying that instead of having to like do something multiple times, just iterate over it once and then easily what get the task done. Do you understand what a loop is? Is it clear? And that's basically what a loop is. So again, I'm going to go with the definition again. So a loops are what fundamental concepts in programming, allowing you to automate repetitive tasks and execute blocks of code multiple times. So they are essential for creating efficient and dynamic programs that can handle large amounts of data and complex operations. So without loops, you have to write the same code over and over and over again, making your programs long, tedious, and difficult to maintain. You understand? Now, instead of having to write something over and over, just write it one time and it iterates over the amount of times that you actually wanted to write it. You understand it now? So understanding loops is crucial for any program. You need to understand it now. What is a loop? Loop is a control flow statement that allow. Do you understand what control flow statement? Control flow statement. Do you remember your conditional statement, right? Now, loops is saying that what as long as a condition is true, certain things is going to happen. Now, let me show you what this condition is here. I said what? I used a for loop, and I said let I equals to what? 1. That means what's the initial state of I? 1. And then the next condition is now what? I is now less than or equals to 10. That means I is between what? 1 to 10. Now, I'm not saying as long as this condition is what? True, increase what? I. That means I is going to start increasing, is going to start counting from what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, it is going to stop at what? 10. Why? Because that is where the true statement actually stops. I is not 11. I is between what? 1 to 10. Do you get? That is basically what I is. And that's basically what a loop is. So a loop is a control flow statement that makes a particular program continue to loop until that program now comes to what? False. So as long as it is true, it will keep happening. Meaning if I set this to 1,000, it will keep looping to 1,000 until it stops at 1,000. Do you get it now? That is what it is. Now, it just basically resonates with your if statement. So your if statement is not what happened if a particular statement is true. Else it's not going to be false. Now the difference between truth and true, your if statement and your loop is that if statement will not execute at all, it's false. But your loop is actually going to be true for a particular amount of time until it turns to false. You understand? That is why your loops are very, very much they are important, and they are also a control flow statement, because at some point they are true, and whenever it turns to false, the program stops. Is it clear to you? That's basically what your loops are. Now, as you can see, I said what? Let I equals what? 1. I is what? Less than or equals to 10, then I plus 2. So it will stop at 9 exactly. It will stop at 9 because I is less than what? 10. Do you get it? It's going to iterate all things. So let us check it out and let's see. So you see, stop at 9. If I check it out now, you should see 9. Do you get it now? So that is basically what your control is. Now, we now have iteration and repetition. Let me just explain what iteration is. I think I've explained it, but I'll explain it again. Iteration is the process of performing a set of instructions repeatedly. So now, look at it. You are performing this set of actions, but you are trying to repeat it. Isn't it? That's iteration. Now, loops now help you what? Iterate over tasks once, so that you don't have to repeat them every time. So iteration can now cause repetition. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? So iteration can now cause repetition. So all you have to do is just iterate it over it once. Now, how many times did you do it here? Once, isn't it? That's our iteration. How many times did you repeat on the browser? 10 times. 1 to 10. Okay, let me add my equals to 1 to 10. That's your repetition. Iteration is saying that, okay, how many times do I want to go over this? Right? And it can easily be written once in your code. Repetition is saying that how many times will this your iteration make me repeat? 10 times. Do you get it now? That's iteration. Now that's basically what loops are for. So loops will help you repeat tasks as many times as you want, but they iterate over that task to make it go as much as you want. Do you get it now? That's why when you have to-do list applications, you can have to-do list applications, and in your to-do list applications, you have whenever a user have you ever noticed that, okay, why is it that this particular to-do list, whenever you don't have a maximum amount of your to-do is what? Most to-do list actually, some to-do lists now have like a maximum amount that they are allowed. But most to-do lists, we notice it is infinity. If you try to add 100 tasks, it will fit in 100 tasks. Have you noticed? How many of us use to-do lists here? Nobody. Okay. But that's how it is. It will go over it multiple times. Do you get it now? Now, why is that when you add one, you go to the add button, add another one, it keeps adding, it keeps adding. It's because as long as you keep adding, which is what the condition, as long as you keep pressing add, and all conditions are met, it will keep adding new tasks. It will keep adding new tasks. Why? That is what loop. You set the program once, but it cannot keep repeating as much as you want. Do you understand what loops are now? Is it clear to everybody? This is how basically what loops are. Now, loops are very easy, but They can be a little bit technical if you don't understand their basic concepts. Now, why use loops? First of all, automation. So loop through repetitive tasks, efficiency, right? Now, why is it efficient? Because you don't want to repeat tasks yourself. You just easily want to write one program and then it just does it for you easily. Then flexibility, readability, as you can see, this is more readable than the first one that I wrote. So let me show you what I'm saying. If you want to do the same thing, I can easily come here and I can say, let I equals to 1, right? So I can now say let A, let Q equals to 2, let B equals to 3. Now I have to do this 10 times. You know that it's going to be a little bit what? Rough. So you do not want that. That is basically what loops help you do. So loops help your task to be what much more what readable. So I hope everybody understands what loops are now. Is it clear to you? Is loops clear to everybody? Yeah? Any questions so far? No questions. So let us move on. Now, what are we going to be moving on to? I'm going to be moving on to types of loops, just so you understand what these loops are. Now, in JavaScript, you have a lot of loops. So let me just read it out. JavaScript provides several types of loops, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. We'll talk these details in later. Okay, let's do that. So what he's saying is that you have a lot of loops. Now, as much as loops have one specific task for repetition, I mean, to go loop through tasks or iterate over tasks, you have weaknesses and strengths for each of these. The most powerful loop tool that you can use is your for loop. That's like the most that's the most common. In fact, out of your for loop, you even have other loops. As you can see here, you have for loop at the top here, and then you also have what? For in and for out loop. Like it's the most powerful loop that even has other loops. Now, what is this saying? Your for loop is a versatile loop. As you can see, it's the most powerful loop. It's a versatile loop that is commonly used when you know the number of iterations in advance. So now, as you can see, I knew that I wanted to have how many loops, how many iterations? 10. Isn't it? Okay. Repetition is saying that this is the amount of tasks. This is the amount of tasks that I actually want to repeat. So as you can see, in this case, it is repeating what 10 times. Iteration is actually what makes that repetition work. You understand? Now, this right here is like repeating tasks, making sure that the tasks are repeated. Iteration is now what makes this particular listing work. So that's why in your iteration, you will set the amount of repetitions that you want. Do you get it now? Now, this is my iteration right here. This is my iteration. How many repetitions did I set here? 10. That's basically what iteration and repetition means. Do you get it now? Now, I know the amount of iteration that I want, which is what? 10. That is why I'm using the word for loop. That's exactly what this place is saying. Do you understand iteration and repetition now? Is it clear? Is it clear? Is iteration and repetition clear? Good. Now you have for loop. Again, I said for loop is a versatile loop that is commonly used when a number of iterations in advance, like when you know the number of iterations in advance. Now it consists of 3 parts: initialization, condition, and what? Increment. You understand it now? Good. Now I'm going to go again. I'm going to go over it again. So first of all, you have your what? Your for loop, right? Is everyone here? For loop. Then you have your what? Your parentheses. The first thing is your what? Your initialization. Initialization, right? The second is your what? Condition. Right? And I think the last should be your increment or decrement. But depends. I want to call it like your I wanted to say calling, I don't want to use increment and decrement because your decision, exactly. Let's use decision. Decision. Now, this is how it works. You have your initialization. Your initialization sets the precedence of your loop, right? Now, your condition now says, okay, this is what I want the loop to do. So if this thing is true, go ahead and print out my decision. Else, if it is not true, stop the loop. Do you understand it now? If it is not true, make sure that the loop stops. Now, but in your condition, you should know the amount of what iterations that you want. That's what a for loop is. Is it clear to you now? Now, that is why when you now have when you try, that's why it is not advisable to use a for loop to build a to-do list. Why? Because if you use a for loop to build a to-do list, why? There is a known amount of what iteration. You understand? So you have to use probably like a do while loop. I think that's the way I sent you. You saw do while, right? Maybe you've not checked it. Yeah, don't worry. So you have to use other loops to build that particular to-do list. Why? Because you don't want your users to have a definite amount. Are you understand what I'm saying? You want your users to have a definite amount of. You want to like just have a forever amount of like they can print in anything that they want. Do you get now? That is basically what your for loop is all about. Your for loop is for a definite amount of iteration. Then other loops can now dive into it and see how we can use them to have probably any amount of iterations that we want. Is it clear to you now? So now let's do something else. Let's say let a. So let us make this an undefined. So now we can now say your for loop, right? We can now say I. So let's say I equals to what? A, isn't it? Or in fact, that's not even. Let us remove this. So let's just go to a for loop and say, let us use an array. Let's use an array. So let's say let fruit. So let's say let fruit equals to what? Let's create an array that says what? Banana. Let's say banana, right? Let's say second one should be what? Mango. Third one, we'll just create 5, should be what? Apple. Fifth one, we're gonna have what? Pineapple. Then the fifth one, that's the fourth rather. Fifth one, we're gonna say what? Guava. Now, what do we want to do? We want to create a loop that automatically prints everything without having to say console.log multiple times. We want to just use a loop that automatically what? Prints everything to the console. Do you understand it now? Now, I cannot easily come here and say what? Your for loop, right? And I can say let what? Let I, right? So I'm using I now. You can use anything. You can say let loop, let anything. But in standard programming language, like standard programming principles, for your loops, you use I, J, and K. So if you have multiple, you can use J, K, M, N, O, P, but you can use any name. Those names are nothing, they're not really important. So I'm saying let I. Now, if I want to get the whole this thing here, how am I going to get it? What will be the condition that I'm going to get it? Okay. Correct. Correct, actually. Now, why is it like that? I can easily say what you probably did not get the syntax, but that's correct. If I want to get fruits right here now, if I want to get all of these things listed out in my browser, right, or in my console, what I can do is that I can say I should now be less than or equal to what the length of this what of this fruit. And what's the fruit name? This fruit, right? That'll be the length. I can easily come here and I say, okay, yes, I right here is undefined. That's initialize I. Before I said I equals to something, but I cannot be equal to something right now because we want to connect I to something. That's why I'm not using const, right? Using what? Let. It can be redeclared. Right? So right here now, we're not going to say let I, then we're not going to put I to the what? To the value of what? So I should not be what? Less than or equals to what? Fruit dot what? Length. Do you understand? Then we can now go what? I plus plus. Now it is going to increment I until it gets to what? The last one, guava, and then it's going to stop. What's the length of this fruit? You have 1, 2, you have 5. That's 0 to 4, isn't it? Then I can go ahead and say console.log I. Why am I using I? Because why? I is already what? Is already it has already been assigned to the what? To the value of fruit.length. Now, if you go ahead and check it out now, you should have what? The value of I. Okay, we have to make it an array. It's actually an array. So let me put this here. Is it coming? Let me try and check something out here. You say? No. Coming. Coming. I'm going to check this out here now. So let's use. I'm actually taking it a bit further. I'm already looking through arrays. So let me check out. Yeah, so it should actually work. Okay. Sorry. Fruit. Then what? Fine. This should work right now. So let us check it out and let's see what we have. So if I control R, it's still not working. Coming. So we have what? Fruit I. This should actually work. This should actually work. No, let us make it equals to 0, like you said. But I feel like it is something that should not be defined. Okay, actually it works. So you have banana, you have mango, you have apple, you have pineapple, and then you have what? Guava. Now, but the reason why I didn't want to make it 0 is because I felt, okay, let us make it undefined. But I think the reason why they wanted us to make it 0 now is because if you are counting length, then it has to be what? No, it has to be what? If you are counting length is what data type. If you want to say how many people are in this class, that is class.length. What data type is length? How is it string? Is it 1 or 2 a string? Is a number. So they had to first of all make us initialize the array with a word, with a number, which is starting from 0. Yeah, it's aside from mango. You understand? So let I equals to 0, which is what? Banana. Then you have mango, apple, pineapple, and what? Guava. Now this is basically what the loop is. Now, as you can see, I said what? Let I equals to 0. I've actually taken a bit too far. So let me just stop here first. So say let fruit equals what? Banana, mango, and then you are usually what? Get the value of this. Now, this is how you can look through arrays. But for now, let us go ahead and work with what? With string. Now, I'm going to go ahead and explain the different type of the loops that we have, and then we can go ahead and then we can go ahead and start using. Now, it's a different type of loops. The first one is your for loop. And I say your for loop is versatile loop. It's a versatile loop that is commonly used when you know the number of iterations that you want to use, right? In that last loop, you know the number of iterations. This is 0 to the end of the array. And what's the end of the array? Guava, right? Which is 5, or 0 to 4. Now, your while loop is the next one. The while loop executes a block of code as long as a condition is true. It is useful when you don't know the number of iterations in advance. Now, what this is saying is that it is just going to keep executing a particular loop as long as it is what? True. This is how you cannot use the while loop to work on your to-do list. Why? Because in your to-do list, you don't know the amount of list or to-dos that your user wants to use. They might want to use any amount. So while loop is saying that this particular thing is going to be true as long as the user keeps clicking on what? Add. They keep going to what? Adding new list. Do you get it now? That's what while loop is. For loops is used when you know the number of iterations. While loop is good when you don't know the number of iterations in advance. You just want to loop things. Now we get to while loop. Do while loop. The do while loop is similar to the while loop, but it guarantees that the block of code will be executed at least once, even if the condition is initially false. Now, what this is saying is that what? For instance, if you have, so if I say, let me give an explanation. So you're coming into the class now, the lights are off, right? You're coming into the class now. So I want to teach. I didn't know that somebody is here, right? So my initial condition was that if you're using for loop, if the first condition that okay, I want to see somebody there sitting in that place. If I don't see anybody in that place, I'm going back home. That's like for loop. At least if I get there, I'm not seeing anybody. You understand? So I just assume that no other condition is going to be true. Now, do while is now saying that there is every tendency that something in this class makes that particular condition true. Why? So if I'm walking in now, somebody might not be there, but somebody might be here, ready and sitting down. So once I enter, I want to check around first and see if absolutely everything is false. If everything is false, then I'm going to go. But if at least one is true, what happens? That one is going to get executed. That's what do while is saying. Now, do while is just like what? Wow, because as at that time, you will not actually know the number of iterations, right? Because the first iteration might be false. It moves to the next one. Next iteration might be false. Moves to the next one. It's just like your if and else. But in this case, it's a loop that you do once. If and else, you have to keep writing your if, else if multiple times. But in this case, you just write it once, and then it's going to keep looping through all of those decisions. Is it clear to you? That is basically what your do while is saying. So instead of what? Just assuming that every other thing will be false. It's going to check through all the iterations first and see if everything is false before it stops. I hope it's clear to you. That is what do while is. And also, do while is also very, very important for your to-do list. Why do you think it's important? Do you understand do while? So why will it be important for your to-do list? Now, that's also like this, but you don't even need look for okay. I think you need looks for that, but not exactly. Now, the reason why let me just tell you why do while is important. The reason why do while is important is because do while is actually a much more strict what's the name? Kind of loop. Now it's just like your while loop, but it's just like exactly like your while loop, just like this is saying. But it now guarantees that the code will be executed at least once, even if the initial condition is false. Now, basically just like your while loop. And I said your while loop is perfect for what? For to-do list, isn't it? So it keeps what iterating. It just keeps iterating. So try to look at the perfect scenario. But basically it's just like your while loop. That's why they call it what? A do while loop. Do you get it now? Is it clear? Just not do well. Is it clear to you? How everybody is not saying yes. So you have your for in loop. Now the for in loop is used to what? Iterate over properties of an object. Do you know what properties of an object is? Eh? What are properties of an object? Eh? What's an object? What is an object? Mr. Dean. You don't know. Okay, what's an object? I was actually asking that as a joke. You shake your head. You don't know objects. Oh yeah, tell me, you know. I know you were just joking. What's an object? Ah, what have we been discussing? What's an object? Even anywhere in any programming language, objects are the same thing. What is an object? You should always prepare for my class because I will always ask you questions. Always. What is an object? Basically, what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks is object. Exactly. We've been doing DOM. DOM properties. What are the properties? What are the properties? Yes. We've been doing DOM. DOM properties. What exactly are those properties? Those things are what? Properties. And what are properties of what? Objects now. So that's basically what we've been doing. And I've explained objects. We did objects. I even did object-oriented programming. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about classes. I mentioned classes, remember, and I mentioned objects. Then under object, I mentioned properties of an object. Then I mentioned method. Remember method? Okay. So loops is used to what? It's so as you can see, your for loop, for in is used for what? Basically for objects. So if you want to look through objects, or you are interested in getting properties of an object, looking through them over and over again, or iterating over them, use what? For in. Then your for of is used to what? Iterate over values of an iterable object, such as an array or a string. Now, for in is saying that I want to iterate over the properties of an object, right? Now, for of is now saying that, okay, what if I now have an object that has like an array inside of it, or that has a string inside of it? So I'm iterating over the value of that particular object. What am I saying? Let me just quickly show you. I'm not going to do anything much. So now, if I say let person equals to what? So if I say first name, right, and I'm going to say Paul. Now, if I'm iterating over this property, what will I be iterating over? First name. So I'm just going to like duplicate this one more time. So I'm going to change it to what? To last name. You understand? So that we have multiple things. So last name here, I'm going to give it what? Levi. Now, if I want to iterate over this object and I'm using for in, right? Yeah, I'm using for in. What will I be iterating over? What is for? What does for in do again? Properties of an object. So what will this for in iterate over? First name and last name, right? Now, but if I'm using for of basically deals with the value. So if I'm saying first name and okay, let's say you now created an array, right? And in this array you have what? For, and right here you have what? Levi, right? It is basically going to deal with this value. If it's an array or number, it's going to do this as a string. That's what for of would do. For in is for in is actually interested in everything about the property. For of is saying that what? I'm only interested in what the value of those properties. Do you get it now? That's how it works. Now, we don't have time to go over all of these loops, but I will try as much as possible to do 3 for you. Now, the 3 I'm going to do, I'm going to touch for loop, which is important. I'm going to touch while loop, which is also very important. Then I'm going to touch one of for in or for all. Now, the reason why I'm touching these 3 is because if I touch for loop, right, it is easier for you to understand for in and for all. Because basically, you have to understand for loop. Now, just from for loop. If you understand while loop, it is easier for you to go ahead and understand do while yourself. Do you get it now? I hope everybody understands it. Now, I'm going to touch for loop and while loop. Then probably I'm going to touch one of for in or for all. So again, it's important that everybody, you see, this, okay, 3 months is over. Money saying 3 months. Learning in programming is a lot. You have to have a structured learning. And that was why I started with Java's HTML. I gave you things to learn in HTML, right? Right? How many things did I give in HTML? Let me leave that. So I gave, you understand? Now, what we're learning in HTML, I feel that, okay, you are learning it. CSS, the same thing. JavaScript is even much because you have a lot to learn in JavaScript. And trust me, you will get it. It is me that I say you will get it, you must get it. If you don't want to get it, I will force you. Get it. I will force you. It's important. Because it's important that everybody understands these concepts right here. Trust me, in the last session, I was already done with everything in week 10. By this time, I was already done. I was just coming to classes. Yes. No, the thing is that there is something that I just like about this set. I'm just like interested in before if I'm teaching in class and then you're probably pressing your phone, right? I will not go back. I will not answer anybody. But right now, there's something I just like about this that you are like interested in learning. Even though you are pressing your phone, you're interested in learning. I will not answer again. So that's just how it is. You're interested in learning. So I want to like take my time and decipher some of these things. The last set, only like 2 people were able to submit their project. And I was happy because at least out of 10 to 12, if 2 people can tell me that, okay, I did my project. One of them demoed in the listing. Probably you know of this. He demoed there. In fact, he did 2 stacks. He worked on back end and worked on front end. That he demoed with me, right? That was one of my skills. 2 of them worked, they were able to like give me. In fact, he did front end and back end, front end and back end. Did front end, back end project first. Then he came to do front end project. So if 2 people can tell me okay, they did it, I was happy. But in this sense, I don't want it to be like that because the initial attitude to learning was what I liked. Everybody. Then it was only 2 people. So I'll focus on 2 people. So that is what I'm saying. Everything in that last week I already done. I did everything and I made sure that I just came to class. Some people ran because I was telling them that okay, we tend to be 12, we come to class and build projects. Some people did not come. People that came were the only ones that finished their project. That's it. So everything I'm doing in class here, programming is not about just sitting down in class to learn. It's about working. So if you're not working, you will not understand. That's it. So please, it's important that everybody understands all of this. Again, I'm mainly digressing. But okay, do you understand all of these things? Is it clear to you? And my offer still stands. Anybody, not just one person, as long as you do well in your project, like, okay, you complete your project and and I can see that you are eager to understand more about front-end development. I am willing to give you a free React book. That book was paid for. It was paid for when I was learning React then. It was paid for. And you can probably check the price. Just check the React storybook by Shalom Matthew. So you can probably check. So it was actually paid for. So I'm willing to actually give it out for free. Do you understand? Although it was not paid for by me, it was paid for by somebody. Somebody that I was also willing to learn. You get it? Eh? Tailwind learning this thing. Of course, I'll give you. So they gave me the book too because they said I was willing to learn. That's why they gave me the book also. So anybody that is willing to learn, I'm willing to give that book and you will learn it. So, but if I do not see a project, I'm not sure I'm not going to give anybody that. So, okay, moving on. Tailwind, if you want to learn Tailwind also, I suggest you learn all of these things. So even React before you move into Tailwind. Tailwind is something that can come later. In fact, as a front-end developer, okay, design is important. But as a front-end developer, I feel like if you understand the basics of HTML and CSS, go into understanding the core functionalities of JavaScript first before saying you want to branch into Tailwind. Tailwind is something that can come. Tailwind is very easy. Can get it in 1 week. Very easy. But if you do not understand some core stuff, you're going to get issues. You're going to have issues. So, all right. So now that is it. Now let us move into for loops. Let's talk about for loops. The anatomy of for loops. I want to decipher what for loops are. All right. So this video will be long because we're just talking about basics. I hope I can finish for loop and while loop today. So on Wednesday class, you can just move into probably almost move into APIs instantly. So now, anatomy of a for loop initialization condition. Okay, anatomy of a for loop. Now we have 3 things. First is what? Initialization. Second is what? Condition. Third is what? I don't like to call it thinking, I like to call it decision. Just like check decision. Now, your decision can be to increase or to what? Reduce. Now, what is that increment or decrement for? The increment or decrement is for that particular for loop to loop through it until it what meets the until it becomes false. Now I'm going to come again. it's your increment or your decrement is to help you loop through that particular condition until the condition becomes false. Now, meaning that your loop will keep working, right? That increment saying your loop will keep working until that condition becomes false. So if the condition is true, it will keep working until it becomes false. That's what the increment is. I remember when we were talking about operators, we said plus plus, something plus plus. If you remember operators very well, that is increment. So you see that everything that you have been learning since, you are still using it here. It's not as if you learn and you drop. Use everything together. Data types, variables, objects, arrays. Now, the for loop is a fundamental control flow statement in JavaScript, providing a concise and flexible way to execute a block of code repeatedly. Now, when you talk about the anatomy, you're talking about three things. The for loop consists of three main parts, all contained with the parentheses following the for keyword. Now, the first is initialization. This expression is executed only once at the beginning of the loop. It typically declares and initializes a counter variable. So what is it saying? It is declaring a variable, or it is being assigned to an already defined variable. Now let me show you what I'm trying to say. So right here now I can say, let I equals to 0 here, right? I can easily say let A equals to 0. And then I can come down here and I can say let I equals to A. You understand? That means I now is 0. Understand it now? So that's just what I wanted to say. So it is saying that the expression is first of all executed once at the beginning, and it is declared, it typically declares and initializes a counter variable. That is what starts your loop, or starts your loop rather. That's what starts your loop. Now the next is your condition. This expression is evaluated before each iteration of the loop. That's your for loop. Now, this is what it's saying. In this place, it is your condition is iterated. It says it is true. Banana is 0. It means the length. That's 0. Mango is 1. Does it meet it? Yes. Apple is 2. Does it meet it? 3. Guava is 4. It meets it. Then you understand. Now the length, till the length becomes true, it keeps iterating. Do you understand it now? Now, as you can see, there's an undefined here. Who can tell me why there's an undefined? Anybody talk? Go ahead. We were doing arrays, and then there was a particular time we wanted to do I'm trying to remember. We wanted to do one particular method that I told you that in arrays, right, there is every tendency, like your computer automatically thinks that okay, there's every tendency that you are going to add to this array. Now, instead of it returning a null value or no value at all, it's going to tell you what undefined. Who remember? Nobody remembers. Now, what this is saying is that what? Yes, your arrays, you have how many distinct ones? You have what? 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what you said was what? What you wanted was what? Just the length. Now you are saying the length of the array. It's not going to assume that this array can still have other properties in future. So those other properties are what? Undefined until you add them to the array. So the more you keep adding, it keeps still saying, because array are infinite. Array can actually contain infinite amount of values. So it's not going to say, okay, since it can contain infinite amount of value, there is every tendency that in future, if I might probably do array dot push. Is it push? Yeah, array dot push or array dot on shift. Is it on shift or shift? Why am I forgetting these things? So you can, probably use one particular method to add other values to your array. You understand? People are forgetting. So to add other properties to your array, do you get it now? So that is why it's giving you undefined. For now, it's giving undefined. Then you're like, okay, there is every tendency that more data will be added to the array. Do you understand now? That is why it's what saying undefined. But I know some people might be thinking, well, it's showing undefined now. Why is it showing undefined? Push, right? Good. So that is basically what it is saying. Now, again, this is your syntax. Every for loop has this syntax. Every single for loop has this syntax. Now, there is now something we call map. We'll get to map very soon. Map is another way of actually iterating over things, but we'll get to that. I will explain map in probably one of our projects. Now, we have what? Who is done with that application? The green application. The welcome that I said authentication. The thing is that I don't want to be building and nobody's building it. You know? That's authentication. That is API. That is Firebase. I don't want to be building when nobody is done with it. So the people that are done building it, even if nobody, just a moment, even though nobody builds it, I will do it like that because I told you to go ahead and I've said it since 3 weeks. Okay, let's say I uploaded it last week. Was it last week Wednesday? Really last week Wednesday. You have Thursday. I said can drop all other things. Didn't I say it? I'm focused on building it. Who has started it? Nobody. All right. We should actually start building it this week, but probably because of I'll just give us to like next week Monday, man. You start building it by next week Monday. So I need everybody to build it. Go to your portal. You see it on your portal. Was it week? And I forgot barely week 8. Just go to your portal and check it out. It is there. I have a question. Which one? Which one? Just mobile. Just do mobile. You don't have to worry about desktop. Do mobile. All right. So now, again, the initialization part for the for loop is where you typically will declare and initialize a counter variable. So this is just basically everything about your for loop. So you have your initialization, as you can see. You have your condition, as you can see. Condition basically tells you now the condition part of your for loop is a Boolean expression that is evaluated before each iteration. So it checks for the first iteration. Now, as you can see, it is very fast. It iterates very fast. But the way you are seeing it is yes, it's fast. But in computer, there's a particular time that it actually happens. Okay, your own time, it might be like in 0 seconds. But in those milliseconds that you did not see, that you did not know, it has gone through every of those iterations. The first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. To see if it is what? True. Now, if it now becomes what? False, it stops. That was why it stops at where? Undefined. Do you understand now? All right. So that's basically what the conditions are. Then the last one is now, one thing that you need to know is that it is possible to omit the condition part of the for loop. If you do this, you must provide a way to terminate the loop within the loop body, typically using a break statement, which will be covered. Okay, let me just give this example. We're going to talk about it. So we have for loop. Let I equals to what? 0. Since I equals to 0, you have what? I plus plus. What is going to happen here? This is an infinite loop, you know. Let me just show you what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to take this out. I'm just going to take this out. So we have a for loop. So I have a for loop, and then we say I equals to what? So let's say let I equals to what? 0. First things first, right? Then we're not going to have what? I plus plus. That's what. Then I'm going to come here. As you can see, you have what? Let I equals 0. Then we're going to have I plus plus. Yeah? Then I'm going to say console.log. We're going to have I. Now let us check something now. So what do you say? Yes, that's what I'm saying, that you can actually have I did not put what? That's what I'm trying to say. It's omitting condition. I said it is possible to omit condition part in the loop. If you do this, you must provide a way to terminate the loop within the body. That's exactly what I'm explaining here. In this case, let me just copy this and paste it in the code so you see what I'm trying to say. In this case, now, if I put this here, what do you have? Which middle? Okay, yeah, exactly. So now, if you let me remove this, good. Now, if you do this now, what exactly you are trying to? What exactly? What will happen? Infinite. Why? So okay, let us refresh. Now it is loading. And if you notice that infinite loops can damage your system. It's keep working. The system will keep working. Yeah. There is every tendency that it might not damage, it might just crash your system. So probably makes it this is has not even started. Probably makes it like just restart all of a sudden. Now can you see? Can you see that it's just it keeps going infinite loop. It will keep going until you provide a break to it and say, okay, if I is not greater than or equals to 5, it should what? Stop. So yes, I is what? 0. So if it is greater than or equals to 5, it should now what? Now where is it going to stop? Where will it stop? I equals to 0, I plus plus. Consider log what? I. Now if I is now greater than or equals to 5, First of all, let me first of all stop this one. It is actually complex. Even me, I'm trying to understand what they mean by that. But if I is greater than or equals to what? 5. Yes. What it means is that it is going to terminate when I is greater than or equals to 5.
Because that's 0 there.
0 like remove this because first of all it is messing with my. Let us check it out. Zero is okay. It will increase. That's why I say if it is what. Now we're going to check it out. Doesn't it? Well, we can check it out here. How sure are you?
I equals to 0. Then it will keep increasing. If it's equals to English equals to 0, just for the
do you understand it now? Let me show you. Let me show you again. What is I here? I plus plus, right? Meaning it was it keep infinitely. Now let's now say wait now. Let's now say I is already 0 here, right? Now, right here, what we are not trying to do, we are not trying to provide the condition for I. Now, what I'm going to say is that what I will now stop, this iteration will now stop when I is greater than or equals to 5. Meaning that since I is already equals to 5, it will stop. Now, if I remove this equals to, it's going to stop at where? 6. So let us check it out. It stops at 6. Do you get it now? Now, if I remove the greater than, if I remove, let's change the less than. Less than, it's also stop at what? 5. So if I, okay, it's going to stop. Okay, yeah, it's going to stop at 0. Why? 0 is what? Less than. Do you see why I'm not using less than now?
I think if we
let me explain to why again. Just a moment. Let me explain to why again. She's looking at me like she's okay. What is this? If I say I is, if I say for I equals to 0, condition is empty, I plus plus. It's first of all give me an infinite loop. But now I want to change it. I want to say, I now want to use this my particular this. I want to say if I is now what? Less than or equals to 5, break. This only means that what? My iteration will happen once. Why? 0 is less than 5. Is it clear to you now? I will explain it again. What is 0? Is 0 greater than 5? So if I now say if I is less than or equals to 5, where will my iteration stop? Any number less than 5. Which means your iteration will stop where? What is I? Where will your iteration stop? You don't understand. I said, just a moment, let I equals to 0, I plus plus. I'm not saying that if I is now less than 5, break, that means stop. Which means it is a for loop. It is not like a do-while loop that will keep iterating until everything is true. It is a for loop that says what? If I is less than what? 5. And 0 is also less than what? 5. That first condition that is already true is going to what? Break and stop.
Isn't this because it's not I? Isn't this as there was?
No.
Then if we put I of that, it's equal to the same as I.
Yeah, if I equals to 5 now, it's probably going to just stop at 5. You know, everything is best if you just check it out. So let us check it out. So if you say I equals to 5, where is it going to stop? So it's actually stopping at 0. So looking at it now, so if I equals to 5, I don't think it's even looping again. Let us just change it to greater than. So now it actually reaches 5. So basically what? So that's already that's going to give you an infinite loop. Let me just show you. Just a moment. You said what? I is equals to 0. I minus minus. What will you do? You want to crash my system.
It's greater than, it's less than or equals to 5.
It means it will never reach 5. It will just keep going down. So you will see it. Jesus, it has already crashed. See, it's loading now. Okay. I should wait. I'm joking. Nothing's crashing. So what I'm saying is that what? You have I plus plus. Now, consider log I. If I say I minus minus, I is already 0. It will keep going down. Why? Minus, because this condition is never going to happen. If I keeps going down, I will never be greater than 5. Will it? Good. So it's that's like an infinite loop. Now, minus minus, you see, minus minus and plus plus are very, very, very what? Delicate. So if I say I equals to 0 now, and I say the condition is what? I is greater than what? 5. And I have what? I minus minus. Is it going to happen? It's going to work. Do you understand? It's going to give you an infinite loop. Why? Because I will never be greater than 5 if you keep iterating it that way. But right now, I say I equals to 0. I is what? Greater than 5. This will also able to give you.
No, that's it.
So I say let I equals to 0, right? Condition is now what? I should be greater than what? 5. So that will give you what? Plus plus. This should get up at 6. See, so there is already running this rocket. I need to console.log I again. Console.log. We're gonna have I. So I'm gonna save it. Let me stop. Yes, now it keeps going. See, 21,000 now. It's going to keep going. It's never going to stop. No, there are some loops that of course, you can be making it slow a little bit, but there are some loops that you are going to like do to crash your system. Like there's nothing you can even do. It's just crash it. So you have to be very, very careful what you do with loops. So now let me reload this. Okay. So I is what greater I equals to 0. I was greater than 5. So I is greater than or equals to 5. I plus plus. So check it out now. You should have what I equals to 0. I is okay. Let's check less than or equals to 5. Why is it giving me good? So you have what 0 to 5. Do you get it now? So this is basically what your for loops are. Now I'm going to advise that you go ahead and check out your for loops. Do something else. Do a lot of things with for loops. Try and like experiment with it. Very important that you experiment. Very, very important. So that is basically everything on for loops for now. Now, in the future of this in future projects, I'll be using this to build, of course, projects with us. Just to show you how for loops can actually work. I'll even probably just work on one project that only deals with loops, right? We need to build projects. You can go ahead and try to build projects on your own again, for loops. But for now, let us move on towards the next one, which is what while loop. To really understand for loops, have you been able to like write a code on your own? Just write for loop code. Is it working? Who else has tried for loop? Nobody.
Like now.
Yes.
No.
The thing is, I'm expecting you to be working like as I'm doing something, do something. For loops, you can. Okay, it's fine. Now I'm going to give you a loop, not an example. Okay, I want to give you like a practice. All right, good. This is one thing that you can do. I want you to write a loop, right? Write a for loop that prints all odd numbers between 1 and 30. That should be very easy for you. Let me stop recording. I want you to write a for loop. Can you see this?